When a severe psychological crisis occurs, the reaction from the outside world is almost always the same. But they seemed so happy. They were just smiling yesterday. They had everything going for them. We are shocked because we expect pain to look like pain. We have been conditioned to believe that severe depression looks like an inability to get out of bed. We think it looks like a dark room, neglected responsibilities, and visible tears. But the truth is, the deepest, most dangerous psychological suffering rarely advertises itself. Instead, it puts on a performance. Welcome back to LucidPsych. Today, we are deconstructing the anatomy of the mask. We are looking at the physiological and psychological mechanics of high-functioning depression. We tend to think of depression solely as a lack of energy. But for a massive portion of the population, a mental health crisis does not look like giving up. It looks like a 60-hour work week. It looks like a perfectly curated social life. It looks like the straight-A student, the reliable friend, the relentless overachiever. This mask of absolute okayness isn't just a simple lie we tell other people. It is a heavy, leaden armor forged by the ego to protect a fragile, storm-battered interior. To understand why the mind builds this armor, we have to look at a clinical framework known as perfectly hidden depression. While not a formal diagnosis in the DSM, perfectly hidden depression describes a highly specific, dangerous psychological trap. For the highly functioning perfectionist, the mind weaponizes its own success. If you are a perfectionist, your ego is entirely tied to your output. You have been taught that your worth is determined by your utility to others. So, when the chemical weight of depression begins to set in, your brain registers it not as an illness, but as a personal failure, a flaw in your character. The perfectionist's inner critic is ruthless. It looks at the comfortable life they have built, the job they hold, the family they provide for, and it screams, "You have no right to feel this way. Look at everything you have. What is wrong with you?" This creates a devastating cycle of guilt. The pain is real, but because the external circumstances look successful, the suffering feels invalid. So the mind creates a strategy. It decides that if it just works harder, achieves more, and controls the environment perfectly, it can outrun the internal storm. You begin to perform your own life. You smile brighter. You take on more responsibilities. You become the therapist for all your friends, ensuring that the spotlight is always on their problems and never on your own silent drowning. You disconnect from your own emotional reality so completely that you might not even realize how close you are to the edge of the cliff. But here is the mechanical, biological reality of the human brain. Maintaining a fabricated exterior requires a staggering amount of physiological and cognitive energy. Imagine trying to hold a heavy iron door shut against a violent hurricane while simultaneously turning around and smiling at the people in the room with you, pretending there is no storm outside. It is exhausting. It drains the prefrontal cortex. It keeps the nervous system locked in a permanent state of high alert, fight or flight tension. When the sudden break finally happens, it is rarely because the underlying depression suddenly got worse. The break happens because the battery powering the theatrical performance simply runs out. The mask becomes too heavy to hold. The iron door blows open, and the collapse is rapid, unexpected, and terrifying. If you are watching this, and you recognize the armor you are wearing, you need to know what happens next. Taking off the mask feels like a threat to your survival. To the perfectionist ego, dropping the performance feels like a catastrophic vulnerability. It feels like an invitation for the world to reject you, because you believe they only love the performance. But it is the only way to let the crushing pressure out of the system. Healing cannot begin until the performance stops. You do not have to earn your right to rest. You do not have to be useful to be loved. And you do not have to be perfect to be worthy of staying here. If you are exhausted from holding up the mask, you can set it down. You are allowed to take up space with your pain. The storm inside is temporary, and there are people waiting to help you weather it. You are not your performance. You are the observer behind the mask. Please reach out.